Hey everyone. So, I know it's been a while since the last episode. Basically, the plague descended upon the entire house here, and you might be able to check out my voice. I still have a cold, but I'm back nonetheless. And a couple of weekends before the illness, I drove down to Burlington, Vermont, and I did a couple of really great in-person interviews. Now, because they were done out of studio, the sound quality can be a little shaky here and there. I'm still working on my on-the-road setup, so please accept my apologies for some minor sound issues. Hopefully they're minor. Anyway, one of the interviews was with Tyson and Miranda from the FutureWave band Fantastic Plastics. The band also includes Dylan, who works on synth and drum backing tracks from home. I first heard about this group on the Subgenius radio show Hour of Slack, and I was instantly in love with their Devo-like sound. I've included some sample songs from their 2015 album, Devolver, in the interview. I also went to their show, and it's a lot of fun to see them live. They will also be at the 2016 Devotional in Cleveland this Friday, the 19th of August. It's the ultimate Devo gathering, and if I were in Cleveland, I would definitely be there. And if that's not thrilling enough, they also will be touring soon with the Svetlanas and Queers, and that should be an interesting show for sure. And if your mind is not completely blown already, their popular song Overtime has been featured in a preview for an upcoming movie starring Perez Hilton. It's called Viral Beauty. So links to all these things are, of course, in the show notes. And stay tuned now, because we're going to be going into a musical interview with the Fantastic Plastics.
Jesus. Rule number 1, lock the door. And rule number 2, take off your clothes. Sounds familiar. You can't wear anything heavy or anything with zippers. Nothing metallic. Cleve left his sunglasses on once. When he transferred, almost ripped his ears off. Now this is the transfer control unit. The white lights are always on. That indicates the unit has power. These are the activating switches that are thrown in sequence. And then you wait for the corresponding lights to come on, and that means that the unit has been phased or it's ready to go. This is the transfer bar. Just need to press it lightly, but you'll see when I do it, okay? Behind these panels are all the adjustment rods. They're used to keep each unit in tune with the other. They control the lag time and the extent of penetration into the future. And you can put your hands to your knees and keep them there. And relax.
So, welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
So you guys are the Fantastic Plastics. I guess, first of all, I'm interested to know, like, what prompted you to choose that name, the Fantastic Plastics?
I honestly don't remember the whole story, but I know it was sort of inspired by Andy Warhol's Fantastic Plastic. I can't remember the full name of it. Sorry, I haven't thought about this in a while, but I knew I just wanted a name that rhymed, or and it would just be easy to remember. And I've had a habit through the years of having band names that had some sort of adjective followed by a noun. It started as kind of a joke with another band I was in. We were called the Kilowatts, and then some other band came along and said that they had the name first. We had it spelled slightly different, and they sent us like a cease and desist letter. So
Whoa.
I just put the word amazing in front of it.
Oh, there you go.
And I said, fine, you can be the Kilowatts, but we're going to be the Amazing Kilowatts.
The Amazing Kilowatts. The super special Kilowatts.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping it would turn into an arms race, but it never got any further than that.
The Fantastic Plastics, that started off when? In 20...
I think so. I think of the band as having two phases. Two phases, yeah, two lives. So like, I want to say it must have been late 2009, 2010 is when Dylan and I first started actually playing and calling it the Fantastic Plastics, and then it started evolving, and then I think we figured out today on the way up here, we were trying to figure it out. We must have started in December of 2012 was our first show. As with the Fantastic Plastics, yeah. with Miranda and I, and that was at the Cake Shop in New York, and that was right at the end of the year. And so we pretty much phase 2 started in 2013.
What were some of your musical inspirations?
By the time I got around to doing the Fantastic Plastics, it was definitely really into this band. Live, I knew I wanted to look. Like, I knew I wanted to look in a sound to match it, and I was really into this band called Manor Astroman, and another band called Servotron, which is kind of a sister band to Manor Astroman. And of course, I was really into Devo and other 80s new wave, so I just was looking to combine those elements. And I love new wave and I love Devo, but I've also had this like more punk upbeat aesthetic, and so I wanted to make sure that, you know, the songs were probably going to be a little faster, a little grittier, and but I just wanted to bring the fun into it as well.
Yeah, it's definitely fun. I mean, looking at your guys' costumes and your guy, I mean, even just the video, if you go online and if you look at the video, We Are Obsolete, it's just hilarious, some of the costumes involved and some of the effects. And Miranda, you were involved with the costume design from the beginning?
Yeah, actually, Tyson has been in a few other bands before this, and I was making costumes for that. For those bands, and so it kind of just evolved into me being in the band, and now I make our costumes, which actually we call them uniforms now. We don't call them costumes.
And just recently I saw a post in your Instagram where you guys were touting your new uniforms.
Yeah, I'm trying to add a lot to our wardrobe so that we have a tour coming up, so we want to mix it up so we don't look exactly the same every time, but it's the same kind of retro futuristic aesthetic.
Miranda, what are some of your like musical interests, or rather some of your inspirations?
We have a pretty similar taste in music. So, but I've always been really into more synth and electronic-y music, I guess. I don't know. So I like it more 80s, I guess. So like Gary Newman and the Cars and things that use a lot of bands that use a lot of synthesizers and I guess a little less rock influence, like Tyson's influenced a lot by like grunge and rock, and I think that's the sound that we have that together is like I play the synth and the theremin, and then Tyson plays the guitar, and so it's like we bring those two elements.
Are there any notable shows that stand out? Like, or have there ever been any like major disasters or equipment explosions or, injuries, nosebleeds, accidental death?
Not really. We had one like really bad spilled drink on stage one time, but the most interesting one that comes to mind is we played South by Southwest unofficially, I guess, at this place that was outside and had like a gravel ground, and we were playing like on that ground, and it was with a lot of other punk bands, so there were all these punk kids there, and we started playing, and they were like dancing and moshing around, and the dust started rising up like eye level, and I could feel the dust all over the keyboard, and Tyson could feel it in the guitar, and people were getting like really close to us, because usually we're on some sort of stage and there's like a separation there, but people were getting so close that they were like knocking into the keyboard and the microphone, and it was like a little scary for a minute there, but
the energy was good.
Yeah,
but at the same time, we're kind of like
good energy, but we're like, what's gonna happen? It just kept getting like more and more. So that's the only thing I can really think of.
We were wearing our all white uniforms.
Yeah.
And when we got done, we were like brownish yellow,
like Pigpen from
that's exactly what it looked like.
Yeah.
Getting back to your point about the horror stories on stage, so live, right now anyway, we don't use live bass or drums. So I sing and play guitar, Miranda plays synthesizer and theremin, and then the bass and drums come off backing tracks. So that's Dylan's contribution. Most of his parts are done through the video and the backing tracks. And so every show is the potential for disaster is so high, because if we go to a place with a bad sound system, or a place that doesn't have monitors, or if someone spills something, like we're dead in the water. I mean, we could make music, but it would be missing the dancey elements of what we do in the band, so every show is like, we never get stressed out about getting on stage and playing in front of people. We're just like, holy shit.
I hope it sounds okay.
Yeah.
I hope we can hear it, because that's the other thing. We have to be able to hear the drums and the bass to play along with it. So
right.
If
they don't have a monitor, then what are you going to do, right?
Yeah,
or are you going to get some echoey thing that you can't work with?
Yeah, it's hard. You got to just kind of turn the speakers. So you get spoiled. So in playing shows in Brooklyn and Manhattan, like every club show has pretty much the same PA setup. They always have really good monitors. They usually have good speakers, a subwoofer. You don't bring anything to shows in New York. You bring your instruments and that's it, because they want to roll. Everything's turned over. They don't want any downtime.
And not only that, but they've probably got their sound system set up and they don't want you messing with it. Like, that's you just right. Plug in, right?
That's right. Yeah, and you just do a quick line check and you play. There's not a big transition time between bands. But then you go on the road, like we went to Austin, and we're going to these shows. We don't know what's going to be there when we show up, so it's always a little bit of added stress, unnecessary, but that's part of
the course.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it's not as bad as that scene from the Blues Brothers where they start throwing bottles at you, right?
Well, that's not happened yet, but we've had that fear, because we have played a lot with punk bands, and we're not necessarily punk, but maybe in a different way, the way that like Blondie or Devo can be considered punk, but I know that one of the first times we opened for like an Irish punk band at Union Hall in Brooklyn, and they looked a little like, the crowd looked a little surly, I guess you could say. And we're like, what are they going to think of us? We're wearing these like space costumes, and we have like
with wigs.
Yeah, we have like, this kind of crazy look, and we actually ended up winning them over, I guess you could say, because a lot of them came up to us afterwards, and I just, this sticks out in my mind. This guy who had like all tattoos and a mohawk and everything, he was like, that was weird but good. Weird in a good way. And I'm like, thank you. I liked that description a lot. So
we get a lot of that, like,
yeah.
I think that's what works for us though, especially when we do these all punk bills where we're in the middle, because it's sort of a break from what is going on, you know what I mean? It gets to be, it can hurt your head after a while.
It's just too many like military jackets and
Yeah. Well, not
Shiny
even that, but
boots.
just if you're on a bill where there's just a bunch of the same style of bands that kind of blur together, so we somehow provide a little bit of a break. But similar to hers, a guy came up to us. I can't remember if it was in Austin or where, but same thing. He goes, "I didn't want to like you guys, but I like you guys now."
Austin. Okay, yeah, I'm thinking Austin good, but like Austin's kind of like the bastion of weird in Texas. I mean, the rest of Texas is kind of like it's weird, but in sort of a, kind of maybe a little more of a creepy way. Yeah, like it's like, I don't know, like in Austin, it's like you can let your weird fly, but I mean, in the rest of Texas, I'd imagine it could be beer bottles hitting the hitting the fence.
Sylvain from the New York Dolls was there at our set, and then he ended up jumping on stage and playing with Cheetah Chrome from the Dead Boys at the end of the night. So it's a cool memory to take away, some rock legend, action in the house.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
So definitely 2001: A Space Odyssey has been a huge influence for the band the whole time, especially for the costumes, and we've been really thinking about it because we binged watched Stranger Things and on Netflix. I don't know if you've had a chance to see it, but it's a new show. It's like a mini series. It's 8 episodes, but it's shot, written, everything about it is supposed to look like a Steven Spielberg movie from the 80s. And so it's a lot of Close Encounters of the Third Kind, E.T., there's some Goonies thrown in, a few other references, and sort of with a Stephen King script. And it's just flooding all these memories and seeing all this inspiration that we clearly have today from it, but hadn't really articulated with ourselves. It's just because, decades go by and you're just sort of building up who you are as a person. You didn't realize that, man, these things had a monumental impact in who we are creatively, especially. But yeah, 2001: A Space Odyssey is probably the most key. And then lyrically, we've read a lot of William Gibson novels, and so like the Neuromancer trilogy specifically. Like on our record, there's a song called "Under the Knife" that's based on the Mona Lisa Overdrive.
Right.
And so so there's definitely, we're pulling those in heavily. It's a hard read, and I think it was written to be a hard read on purpose.
There's like certain vocabulary and you don't know what he's talking about. You kind of just have to read it and go, and then
and you make up a definition for a lot of it, right? Like his style is to be purposely vague. But the interesting thing is we fought through it. It took us a long time to read Neuromancer, and then we finished the trilogy. And we finished the trilogy, then Neuromancer made more sense, so we went back and then reread Neuromancer.
Yeah,
and it was such a better read. Like we got so much more out of it the second time after. But that's a commitment. Like not everybody wants to commit to reading 3 fairly long books.
They're very abstract too. Like the whole cyber space, like it kind of like, I know a lot of things were influenced by that, like the Matrix, right? And because it was at the very beginning of talking about cyberspace, and
no one knew exactly what the internet. No one knew exactly what the internet was going to be at that point, So, and I think William Gibson gets a lot of credit for sort of being way out front and inventing a lot of this stuff, and I think he was right about a lot of it. But I think also because he wrote in such a vague style, it's easy to go back, hindsight's 20/20, and say, man, he had, he picked out all this stuff that happened that's real, but he's probably laughing, thinking like, geez, I just, wrote 3 or 4 words, that made no sense, and people, right, connected dots that may not have existed, but that's the beauty of like a great author can create that world,
How did you guys meet up anyway? Because originally the band was just Tyson and the keyboardist, Dylan. How did you guys meet up?
I don't know. We met a long time ago, like in 1998 or 99, and just through mutual friends. And I ended up being in one of his bands, but not playing or singing anything. I was like we were backup dancers, me and another friend that actually introduced me to Tyson, and we wore costumes and matching wigs, and we did choreographed dances to all the music, and it was like a one-man band that Tyson had called Analog Saves the Planet.
Yeah, it turned into like a circus sideshow thing almost, or a carnival act. It was cool. We had Miranda and her friend Denise would dance, and then we had a guy that would come up and just play a triangle in one song, and it was kind of an event.
Just one note.
Yeah, just one note. He'd stand there the whole time, like building tension when he was going to finally hit the triangle, you know.
It was a lot of fun, but I think it's kind of like the predecessor of
Fantastic. It's the first proto version of this. It's gone through a couple phases. There was Analog Saves the Planet, and then Mandroid, Destroyers of the Human Race.
Which I made these kind of like robot costumes for Tyson and Dylan. They were like spandex and metallic and
armor and cod
like
pieces.
So this is like, the visual component's a big deal. I remember listening to Hour of Slack, and they were talking about, the visual show is like a huge part of it. And actually, I remember the video for We Are Obsolete. There's actually 2 girls dancing with wigs. Are you one of them?
Yeah, I am. That was actually part of like a documentary or mockumentary that Dylan made about the band, and that's actually how we met Dylan, right?
Yeah.
He
was a videographer.
Yeah.
He was making like independent TV shows, and
he made this documentary about Analog Saves the Planet, and it's pretty funny. It's a little embarrassing too.
Yeah, it was like 99, 2000 maybe
early
that came out.
2000s, I think.
So that was,
but it's on
clips.
YouTube now, so anybody can watch it.
Is it the whole thing? Oh, he did put the whole thing on there.
Yeah, it's about.
It's hard for us to watch because it's a long time ago.
Yeah.
And
some of your show, it reminds me of when I was growing up. I would sometimes watch these groups called Gwar.
Oh yeah.
Have you ever heard of that group?
Yeah, multiple times my old band was supposed to open for them, and the shows, and I, to this point looking back, the shows probably were never, it was probably fake, but I remember we were going to play at the theater in Peoria, and we were supposed to be the opening act, and the show got canceled because they couldn't deal with the fake piss and blood. Like the venue could not, like, the insurance wouldn't cover it in case the cleanup in case someone slipped in it and all this.
It's fake though.
I know, definitely it's fake, but like the claim was that the liability that like it would make the floor slippery, basically, okay. And then the mess. But to this day, like looking back, knowing the guy that was going to book the show, I think he might have made the whole thing up. Like, I'm going to get them, they're going to come, and like, oh, they couldn't come, like trying to get cool points or something.
I think they have a female lead singer now, I believe.
Yeah,
that's the last I've heard about them, but yeah, I think they...
Wow, okay. Yeah, I just remember because I thought I saw an episode of Beavis and Butthead when they would talk about Gwar all the time. Yeah. Awesome.
But what's cool about Gwar, like fast forwarding to today, is there's some acts now doing these kind of, like we saw this thing called Kaiju Big Battle, and there's some other bands that do like sort of Kaiju themed bands where they wear these giant foam rubber costumes when they play, and it's very Gwar. Like Gwar in a weird way was sort of ahead of its time with the costumey shows,
Repeating and 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 repeating.
I got onto the Pokemon Go, and man, I'm pretty hopeless now. I'm totally screwed.
I just started yesterday. I was like, I caved. There's so many people I know are doing it and talking about it constantly, so I'm like, okay, fine, I'll do it. And now I'm pretty into it.
Prepare yourself. It's going to be bad.
Well, there's a cool backstory to this. I've been telling everyone because so we play a lot of gigs at this place called the Way Station. It's in Brooklyn. It's a Doctor Who themed sci-fi steampunk bar. It's a great place, and the owner's this quirky dude. He's really cool. And one day I saw him all night. Like he had this app on his phone, a game, and he was going inside and outside, and it just looked like blue and green, kind of like sparkles. I'm like, what's this guy? So I went out and started talking to him. He's like, oh, it's this new game. It's called Ingress. It's AR, augmented reality. It's like he uses Google Maps. You walk around and you like tag these places, whatever. So he explains to me the whole game, and I downloaded it, and it was okay, but I just couldn't invest the time in it. I hadn't thought much about it, so I deleted it. And then Pokemon Go came out, and I downloaded it early on. I only played it for like 30 minutes. I'm like, I'm not going to do this. But I noticed that the company was Niantic. It's the same company. So long story short, as I'm getting around to it, it's the same game. It's Ingress. They just put a skin on top of it, licensed Pokemon. And now this game that was a failure that they sunk a ton of money into, they didn't have to pay very much at all to make this game the biggest iOS game in the world, or the biggest, mobile game. So now I want to go back and play Ingress because I looked over the years they've upgraded it and made it more interesting. But
okay. That's pretty cool. Yeah, I'm totally addicted to Pokemon
what
Go.
level are you now?
Yeah, what level trainer are you?
I'm level 13 so far.
That's good.
But I can't play it down here because
It costs you a fortune.
like the mobile chart, like the mobile
The data
fees.
thing?
The data would be crazy. I gotta stop myself. I'll try. Are you guys touring right now? Like, do you guys like tour all year round, or are you just doing the summer thing?
Actually, this tour that we're doing in September with the Queers and the Svetlanas up and down the East Coast, that'll be our first official tour. What we mostly do is weekend getaways. So this is just a weekend thing, and then in a couple weeks we're going to the Devo thing in Ohio, the Devotional 2016. And so we do a lot of those, and then, shows locally in Brooklyn and Manhattan. But this will be our first official tour because it's tough straddling the line between having careers, full-time jobs, and then getting away and doing this. I mean, it's not a ton. I mean, I know bands, go out for 300 days a year, but for us, it's a big step up, and it's pretty cool. Our label has this tour every year called the Upstart Festival, and usually it's a group of bands on the label and some that are friends with the label and such, and they go up and down the East Coast. So it's good. They gave us a great slot. And when I was in high school, I thought the Queers were a great band. They were kind of a proto Green Day. They I like that word lately, but they busted out around the same time. They were a little ahead of the curve. They never got really famous, but they had a couple hits that if you hear, you'd be like, okay, I know who they are. And so it's cool to see them still playing, and like to get to go on a tour for, a couple weeks with them. It's going to be a blast.
That is really cool. That is amazing.
Reliving 90s fantasies, or not reliving, living out 90s fantasies.
I mean, is there anything that like you guys have learned, or is there any like life changing or something that really enriched your lives? It's a hokey question, but see what you can do with it.
Especially now in the modern age where there's so much for people to do, right? Like people's attention spans are super short. To put up a video online that's, more than 15 seconds to get someone to watch, it's a miracle, right? To get someone to listen to an entire song is a miracle. To get someone to do anything, because there's constant distractions. There's a million other things you can do. So when we play a show, and whether it's 5 people or 500 people that show up, it like fills me with like warmth and joy, and just I feel so good because those people are spending their time, which is like the most precious thing ever, right? Like, and especially as you get older into your adulthood and your career, like the way you slice up your time is so precious. So for someone to come sit there and watch us for 45 minutes, just that means a lot, and it really makes everything worthwhile. All the crap that goes along with it kind of folds off, because now I'm focused on those people, and I want to make sure that they enjoy their experience, because it's precious.
So Miranda, is there anything that you deep or meaningful that you take from this that tickles the cockles of your soul?
Yeah, I am on the same page as what Tyson said. Just anytime anyone comes up to us or posts on our social media how much they enjoyed our show or how much they like our album or anything like that, like it's amazing to reach somebody on that level, because as Tyson said, like everyone has a million things they could look at or like or go to, and to have them spend any amount of time enjoying what we create, because we enjoy it so much is amazing. And I think some of the shows I've enjoyed the most playing are where we play all ages shows, so people can like bring their kids, or like we played a couple in Austin and we have in Illinois. And some of our big fans are kids, like little kids, and they come up to us and they wanted us to like sign. We actually have a graphic novel that our friend drew, and it's each chapter is a song from our album, and all of the dialogue, all of the words are lyrics from the songs. And so, we sell that in our merch along with our CDs and everything, and the kids really liked that and wanted us to sign it. And And yeah, I don't know.
Kids are great too because they're so free of like, up until
They're
about
not
12 or
jaded.
13. Yeah, and they're not like really worried about what people think about them.
Yeah.
Like, too many people at shows are like
Trying to be cool.
It takes them almost till the end to warm up to us because they're like
Yeah.
looking around to see if anybody else thinks it's going to be okay to like this weird band where kids are just like,
Automatically.
Kids
They
are
love
like,
it.
whatever, man. This is
Yeah.
awesome.
it's bright, it's shiny, it's making me dance, it's
Yeah.
happy.
So, guys, thanks so much for being on the show.
Thank
Yeah,
you
thank
so
you.
much, Sean.
Super thanks to Tyson and Miranda for being on the show. I'll include links to their Facebook and Bandcamp pages in the show notes. Beginning theme music for this episode is, as always, by Chromatics Music, and it's used with permission. All music to this episode, except for that beginning theme, is by the Fantastic Plastics, and it's on their 2015 album, Devolver. Of course, the HAL 9000 sound comes from the movie 2001 Space Odyssey, and the funky bit with the matter transference beam comes from this great 1973 film called Idaho Transfer. And just for the uninitiated, in order to get onto the matter transference beam, you have to take off your pants. Please consider leaving a nice review or 5-star rating over at iTunes for this show. So thanks so much for listening, and I hope you'll be back next time.